This week on Jersey Matters, 2 more forest fires raged in New Jersey this week. We'll talk with the New Jersey fire warden about the state response. There are more black bears roaming New Jersey looking for food than we've seen in a long time. And the head of the New Jersey Fish and Game Council wants to bring back the bear hunt. The CDC lifts the mask mandate for the vaccinated, but Phil Murphy says, not here, and a lot of people aren't happy about it. And you'll meet a New Jersey man who has spent a good deal of his adult life trying to find Adam Sandler again. Hello and welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. This week, 2 more wildfires in New Jersey scorched 1,500 acres and threatened nearby homes. Here's my interview with New Jersey State Fire Warden Greg McLaughlin.
It seems like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, we've had 3 sizable wildfires now in the last couple of months. Is there reason for concern?
Well, yeah, there's definitely reason for concern, Larry. Wildfire season in New Jersey peaks in the spring. Spring has seemed to start earlier each of the last few years. As early as late February, we've had some sizable fires. That happened again this year, where we had an early season fire in March. And it can continue, the wildfire season can continue into May and even June and July if we have conditions that are ripe for wildfires. And right now it's been very, very dry. There's been an absence of significant rainfall in a lot of areas throughout the state. So there's definitely reason for concern.
The fire in Vincenttown and the fire in Little Egg Harbor Township, are they under control now?
Yes, those are 100% contained and under control.
And then we had the fire in Brick as well back a couple of months ago. At the time, they came out and said that was deliberately set. Have we found out exactly what happened?
So Ocean County Prosecutor's Office, I met with them as recently as Sunday night, and they are still continuing that investigation. They have a long list of suspects that they need to go through. They are confident it was deliberately set, but at this time they have not concluded that investigation or charged anyone.
It's because of the good work of your department and because of the good work of local firefighters that these fires haven't been worse than they could have been. But if this were to continue, that streak may not continue. So you've put in phase 3 restrictions in place. Can you explain what that means?
Right. So as conditions, weather conditions, particularly right now, as I mentioned, drying continues, we want to minimize any ignition sources that could create a fire. So we have put in restrictions on campfires, agricultural burning, and essentially all other open fires. We're trying to minimize those ignition sources. We're trying to minimize the drain on our resources and effectively prevent fires from happening, because those are always the easiest ones to put out, right? The ones that never start.
Are we going in unprecedented times, or is this kind of normal, or where do we stand this year as opposed to past years?
Well, it's not unprecedented, but I think the factor that's important, and I'm glad you brought this up because we had this discussion this morning, is that typically when we see the deciduous vegetation, the oaks and the maples, and leaf out, they contain a lot of moisture. And they shade the forest floor, which is where all fires start. So we usually see a tendency for fire activity to drop off at this time of year. But we do have to look historically. If you look back to 1930, that was a May fire that was one of the most devastating fires in history. If you look back to the Warren Grove fire that started from the Warren Grove bombing range in 1997 that burned, 2007, that burned 15,000 acres. That was a middle of May fire. So I think what the message is that as we have those conditions, that drying, we can continue to have fires right through June.
But as of right now, we're still in the middle of this fire season. There's still
Yes.
a danger right now as we speak. Have we been lucky?
I think we've been really lucky. We were really lucky with our ability to respond quickly, to have resources available, to watch the weather, to increase our staffing, to, in fact, to that point, with the Lakewood brick fire that happened in the spring of the year, we look at what we feel are going to be the most crucial 30 to 40 days of the season based on historical fire activity. And we'll actually hire in from contractors. One of the contractors brings planes in from Florida and he stations them here in New Jersey so we can add to our capabilities for response and quick response. And we weren't going to have those planes on in March when that Lakewood fire occurred because it was still what we consider to be a little bit early season. But as we were looking at the weather conditions that were lining up, we called those planes in early for that weekend. And we were lucky to make that call and to do that, to have those extra resources, so to speak, available to us. And, you know, we've been lucky also in the sense that we have really good cooperation from our local partners. So when we're out there trying to manage and control where this fire is going and where we don't want it to go, right? Because the strategy and the philosophy with wildfire fighting is a lot different than structural firefighting. Structural firefighting, the goal is to get that fire out as quickly as possible. And while we want to get that wildfire out, we want to first determine, based on the weather and the vegetation and, you know, the structures that may be threatened, how do we want to force the fire away from improved property and other values at risk. So we attempt to try to manage the direction of that fire, and we leave the protection of those homes to those locals. And that gives us the confidence in knowing we can do what we need to do. And the other night, there was a local fire company from Little Egg Harbor, from Bass River, from New Gretna, from Barnegat, Forkett River at every single house. And so they're ready that if one ember, you know, lands in somebody's roof or somebody's gutter or somebody's vegetation or mulch, they're ready to take care of that. And so in the bigger sense, we're lucky we have that available to us.
Is there anything, as we finish this, is there anything that you want to tell New Jerseyans or people visiting New Jersey that visit our forest, how they should be behaving?
Most of the fires, 99% of the fires, are started by people, right? And it's not always intentional, but it becomes a matter of carelessness and not knowing the conditions. You know, get out and enjoy the outdoors of New Jersey, because we have some really beautiful places for people to see, but to be really careful and aware of what the conditions are.
Because that carelessness could ruin somebody's home or take their life.
Absolutely, and destroy a lot of forest property. And, you know, firefighters are putting themselves at risk, and so are other emergency responders.
As always, thank you so much for your time.
New Jersey State Fire Warden Greg McLaughlin. Still to come on Jersey Matters, many New Jersey restaurants can't get employees to come back to work, but one well-known New Jersey restaurateur found a solution. We'll talk with him next. Welcome back to Jersey Matters. There is a hiring crisis in New Jersey right now and across the country, as many small businesses, especially restaurants, are not able to get their employees to come back to work. But not restaurateur Tim McClune, who owns several restaurants in the state. He found a solution weeks ago.
Thanks so much for spending time with us today. You're getting a lot of media about raising your wages to $15 an hour at your restaurants. First of all, explain to us who gets the $15 an hour, because I understand it's not all employees. And
sure, it's all for the non-tipped people. Okay. So the servers, the bartenders, they have nothing to do with this. What we were trying to do a few months ago, I determined we went to $13 an hour, and it really had nothing to do with what now has developed to be a labor shortage. And so what I was going to do was go to $14 an hour in May, and then when we hit June and we were in a more substantial business part of the year, so I thought we could absorb it, we would go to 15, because I felt 15's coming anyway. And as it turned out, it ended up being probably a good thing to do, just because the labor market seems to be, shrinking. So, but my real goal with it was that, we receive governmental support through the PPP program. And a lot of times people keep hearing the letters PPP and they don't realize it's payroll protection program. And I just really felt that the least well compensated people in our company who work arguably as hard, if not harder than anybody else. And I'm talking about the people that clean the building, the people that work back in the kitchen, the dishwashers, the prep cooks, many of whom have families, who also had the complication of if they had families that maybe one of them had to stay home, they couldn't have dual incomes anymore because the kids couldn't go to school. It just seemed that, there's that saying about trickle down economies, and it seems like nothing ever actually trickles down. Well, we thought in this particular case, maybe we could trickle down some of the money and help support the least supported people in our company who we so desperately depend upon.
There's a lot of businesses that are complaining they can't get staff to come back and they can't find people to hire because they're making more to stay at home and collect unemployment. That had nothing to do with your decision?
None at all. And I kind of resent that, not from you, from people that are saying that. I think they're demonizing a certain section of the labor force. And that's true. A lot of them, I think, I shouldn't say even a lot. I think a good proportion of people have decided, hey, listen, I'm getting that supplemental $300 and I can stay here. I don't really have to work. I don't have something I really want to do. So I'll do it. There's a percentage of that, but it's a much bigger picture. The labor market is being chipped away at by the ones that I mentioned, like even something as simple as babysitting. But there's also a tremendous amount of construction going on right now, at least in our area. So there's people working construction that make more money doing that. I use the expression, perhaps with you too, that back in a year ago, March, when the big close down came, it was as if we had 12 restaurants burned to the ground and we had no insurance. It was the same effect that all of a sudden they're all closed. So
how big of a hit was that?
I'm sorry?
How big of a hit was that for you financially?
It was to the point where I think I actually suffered a little bit from trauma, that I struggled to think clearly and make positive decisions for about 2 weeks after that. I think it was almost the same effect as if you had a big fire that burned everything down. It took me a while, and I've got a wonderful office, the people that help my wife and I run our company. And everybody was kind of cheerleading each other. And then we got into the fight, and all right, let's try that to-go thing. We were terrible at to-go in the beginning. One of my highlights of my professional life was I was actually out on Ocean Avenue in front of our restaurant, the Rum Runner in Seabright, hawking beverages. We were doing anything we could. But then we figured out that to-go, all right, here's how it works. But it wasn't a big part of what we do. People come to us for full service. And but then the first PP came along, and then we could open up outside. And we had a mostly terrific summer. We lost 3 places permanently, but they were underperformers anyway. And so, okay, we're back. And then we had magnificent weather. I mean, we will never see that again. I use the example last July, the sun came out 29 of the 31 days. And the 2 days it didn't, we didn't get washed out. When that hurricane came through in early August, we were open by 4 o'clock. Nothing bad happened. I don't know that we'll ever see that kind of weather again, but it pushed us forward into the fall. But here comes the fall, and before you knew it, business dropped off precipitously. But then the second round of PPP came, which enabled me to be speaking to you today because we're still in business. We feel that
without it, let me interrupt you for a second. Without it, you would have been out of business?
Absolutely. We could not have gone forward, or at the very least, we would have made some really hard choices. Do you close down a whole bunch of places and put a whole bunch more people on unemployment? It would have been a really close call because this past January and February, business was terrible.
It was interesting what you told me before we even started recording. You said that people got the wrong impression of what you were doing from some of the articles that were written. And it was actually the servers who came to you and said, you have to correct this. Explain why.
Yeah, thank you for pointing it out. One of the articles came out with a picture of a server, of a young woman serving food. And so it gave the people that read the article the idea we were giving $15 an hour to the servers. They don't need it. they still make $3.13 an hour, which is almost nuisance money to them. The public in general has been extraordinarily generous to the server staff, and as a way of supporting, just being supportive of restaurants. And they would have no way of knowing that that money doesn't go anywhere. We are not allowed by law to share that money with anyone else in the building. Non-tip people cannot supplement. I'm sorry, tip people cannot supplement non-tip people. And there's a good reason for that, because a restaurant might say, all right, to a server, give us 20% of whatever you get, and I'm going to pay that to the kitchen, so I don't have to pay the kitchen, so it's totally illegal. But the thought was, and then our servers were worried that the public is going to think, well, they're getting $15 an hour now. I don't have to tip them so well as I was doing. Just give them a couple of bucks. They're doing great. Not true. This money we're raising the floor for all of the people in the building who have not been able to share in the money that we got through PPP or what the servers are getting through generous tipping. They were not able to share in any of that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
New Jersey restaurateur Tim McClune, next on Jersey Matters.
Residents across the nation are throwing away their masks following the new CDC guidelines, but not here in New Jersey. We'll have the story coming up next on Jersey Matters.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. The vaccinated are finally free from their masks based on new CDC guidelines, only not in New Jersey. As Governor Phil Murphy is keeping the mask mandate in place, and as Jersey Matters' Kimberly Kravitz tells us, a lot of people are not happy about it. Kimberly.
Neighboring states such as New York and Pennsylvania are lifting their restrictions for indoor mask wearing for fully vaccinated residents. But Governor Murphy says not so fast, making New Jersey one of the only states in the Northeast to require face coverings at restaurants and indoor venues.
Our decision to retain our requirement that everyone in New Jersey continue to mask up when in an indoor public space.
The decision stands in contrast to the mask rules of our neighbors, New York and Connecticut. But this is because, according to Governor Murphy, not enough of the state has been vaccinated.
While we have made tremendous progress, we are not out of the woods yet. The majority of New Jerseyans are still unvaccinated.
Some residents are relieved about the decision, such as this business owner in North Jersey.
I was very relieved because when I found out that people didn't need to wear masks indoors, I felt that I was going to have pressure put upon myself when people walked into my store without their mask, and I don't know whether they're vaccinated or not.
Another business owner out of Asbury Park explained that she feels there has been some discrepancies about how to mask up and who should mask up.
My employees, all of them will mask up. They have to mask up. Obviously, if they have a health issue, they don't have to mask up. That was a little bit of discrepancy that people didn't kind of sort of understand.
I spoke with Republican challenger for Governor Jack Ciattarelli about the decision to hold on to masks, and he says it's time to let it go.
New Jersey seems to be holding on to their masks indoors. And is that something that you think is necessary at this point?
New Jersey has to hold on because Phil Murphy won't let go. All along he said, let's follow the science. But now we seem to be ignoring the science coming out of the CC. This one's really hard to understand. I've yet to find anyone who understands it.
People in New Jersey have mixed feelings about the new mask guidance issued last Thursday from the CDC, stating that fully vaccinated people can go without a mask in most situations.
It is what it is. I think that if people are vaccinated, I don't think it matters, like wear a mask, don't wear a mask. I'm vaccinated, he's vaccinated. If someone's not vaccinated, then I don't care because, the chances of me getting sick are still slim, so.
I'm always going to wear the mask that I wear to hide who I am on the inside, but I don't think I need to wear this mask anymore. As long as the CDC says it and the governor says it, I'm comfortable. I don't think they would tell us if we didn't need to.
I'm happy about it, especially outside. I mean, everyone, it's great to not have to wear a mask outside and breathe fresh air. I trust Governor Murphy.
I think everybody should be wearing a mask no matter what they're doing. Stay as safe as possible. I believe it's necessary when you're indoors, you should wear a mask.
The CDC still requires Americans who are fully vaccinated to wear their masks when they're indoors on buses and planes, hospitals, prisons, and homeless shelters. Reporting from Asbury Park for Jersey Matters, I'm Kimberly Kravitz.
All right, thank you, Kimberly. Next on Jersey Matters.
If you meet a certain income requirement, you might be able to get your hands on some of these items here at this store you see in Secaucus. And the best news is, all of it is free. More on that story next.
Welcome back. It opened as a store to help families who lost everything during the disaster wrought by Superstorm Sandy. But as our Jennifer Marin is happy to report, it's still open today and helping families through another disaster, the COVID-19 pandemic. Jennifer.
If you meet a certain income requirement, you're entitled to everything on this list. Now, that includes a blouse, a pair of shoes, a jacket, and there's more. And the best news for people who are struggling is this is all free. If you ask Crystal what she values most about the Secaucus Emergency Fund Store, she'll tell you.
The clothes for my kids. They grow really fast, so that's probably like the best part, and they're very welcoming here, so.
Every 6 months, Crystal and other residents from either Hudson, Bergen, or Essex County who meet a certain income requirement can shop here for free. When they arrive, they're given this list. Each person is entitled to a shirt, a pajama, a coat, and more.
It's actually a relief. With as many kids there is in this town, we could rely on getting clothing. We don't have to spend so much money.
All the items in the store are new, and the brands you find here are top of the line. There's items for men, women, and children in all sizes.
We have so many things here, Ralph Lauren, Michael Kors, we have pocketbooks in the back, we have shoes. There's just so much, and we have so much coming this way. We have a lot of donations coming our way.
The help is for people who truly need it, but we all know life can sometimes throw a curveball, and when it does, these folks step in to help.
A lot of times we deal with Jersey City, Patterson that have severe fires, so a lot of people lose everything. And we step in and we give them all the clothes they want. Right now we have furniture from IKEA, and we're helping Jersey City with that also. So it's not just about Secaucus, it's about the entire district.
And there's more.
We ship to a pastor 3 times a week. He comes here and fills the van up, and he delivers to homeless people in Jersey City.
Mayor Ganelli says seeing firsthand what this store has done for people is the biggest reward he and the staff could ask for.
It's an uplifting feeling for people to shop and the people to take what we have here, And when Marianne said, here's the list, but if you're really in need, you can take whatever you want. And that's really how it works.
During a time in which so much is uncertain, Crystal hopes people will see this store as an opportunity to regain some certainty.
I would say, especially with the pandemic, to not be afraid to ask for help. Everybody needs the help, whether it's clothing, whether it's food, it's something.
And speaking of food, apart from clothing and other items, there's actually also a small pantry right here in the back of the shop. If you meet a certain income requirement, these folks can also help you out. For now, reporting in Secaucus, for Jersey Matters, I'm Jennifer Marin.
Welcome back to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Menti. The black bears are out of hibernation and they're out and about in New Jersey scouring for food, which has led to many close encounters. Do you know that there has been a black bear sighting this spring in every county in New Jersey? That's why Phil Brodecker of the New Jersey Fish and Game Council is imploring Governor Murphy to bring back the bear hunt.
We wanted to talk to you today because there was a recent report that there have been black bear sightings now in all 21 counties of New Jersey and that the population has increased. Why do you think that is?
Well, we have a very prolific bear population in North Jersey, and they've just been expanding to where there's not enough room for them up here. So they're moving throughout the whole state. We've got an abundance of food sources for them. A very diverse habitat for them. It was inevitable. We knew it was going to happen.
Right. There's two distinct sides on this. If you talk to animal rights people, if you talk to many environmentalists, they say this is a good thing that the bear population is coming back. What is your position on it?
I love seeing the bears. They're beautiful animals. They're a magnificent resource we have up here, but something has got to keep the numbers in population. Every other state is using a hunting season to reduce the population and to keep it in check. And as far as I'm aware, that's really the only means of limiting growth and reducing a population.
Governor Murphy ended the bear hunt. He is saying, his administration is saying, the increase on bears is due to the fact of actually a few reasons, but one of the main reasons is because of the pandemic, and because there was more open spaces, there was less intervention by people, and so they felt more free to roam out. Does that make sense to you?
No. A population growth is a population growth. I think it's directly correlated to food and habitat. And we have an abundance of both of those in New Jersey, and bear populations are growing. We've got the largest black bears in the world. We've got the highest number of cubs per bear. I'm glad to see that Governor Murphy is acknowledging we have a large population and that it's continuing to grow. I just really am curious as to what his propositions are to prevent excessive growth or to reduce the population to a reasonable carrying capacity.
And why is that important?
It really damages a lot of farm crops. It damages a lot of private property owners' property. I just had a customer call me the other day that had their chicken coop raided, ripped the chicken coop right apart, just tore the wall off of it. It was during the day also. And that's quite common this time of the year where chicken coops are just demolished. Farmers are using electric fences to deter bears from their beehives, from their chicken coops, from livestock. So they're causing a lot of damage to any landowner, whether it's a farmer or just a residential person who's the bears coming and raiding their bird feeders, raiding their garbage cans, breaking into sheds to access garbage. They just cause a lot of damage on residential communities when you have a larger population than what the habitat can handle.
And so it was interesting to me that I know you want the bear hunt back, and you believe it's the best way to keep down the bear population. But if the bears don't prove to be a threat to humans, except to maybe wildlife or to farmland, is it really necessary?
Well, who's going to bear the expense that it costs property owners and farmers? I mean, we have crop damage in our corn, apple trees, fruit trees, tremendous damage to those types of crops come summer into fall, and then livestock this time of the year. So who's going to bear the expense of that? Should it all fall on the landowners and the farmers' expense? And then there have been people killed in New Jersey. There's been other people that have been attacked by black bears. So at what length do we want to tolerate or allow that too? No, it was only one person, but to me, that's too much.
So what do you think are the chances, as long as Governor Murphy is in office, of the bear hunt coming back? And if it doesn't come back, what do you see the future as?
Well, from what Governor Murphy said, I think it's pretty slim chance, but I think it's a shame that our governor's not able to manage resources and work with the public and address problems, which he's already acknowledged there's a problem. If he comes up with a better solution to reduce the population, I'm open to hearing it, but there's got to be something done with an overpopulation. And his job's not to make personal decisions because he doesn't want to see the bear shot, but his job's to help manage our resources as our governor and take care of all the community, all the citizens of this state. Sometimes the hardest decisions to make aren't always the most popular when you're in politics. So I hope he can recognize that there's a problem, and I hope he comes up with some solutions to work with the Division of Fish and Wildlife, because something's got to be done to keep the population reduced and managed to where it's at a safe level. We're not going to eliminate the bear population. There's a lot of them out there. There's no need to. It just needs to be managed to a controlled level that's going to be manageable as far as public interactions, private landowners, and the carrying capacity of the land.
Sir, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Phil Brodhecker, New Jersey Fish and Game Council. Still to come on Jersey Matters, his search for Adam Sandler made him the lead this week in the New York Post. We'll talk with the New Jersey native next. Welcome back. Recently, comedian and actor Adam Sandler left an IHOP after being told he had to wait a half an hour. When it made national news, he went back to the IHOP and he helped raise money for charity. So why won't he come back to New Jersey and meet with filmmaker David Seth Cohen, who made the lead story in the New York Post online because of his search for Adam Sandler? Here's my interview with David Seth Cohen.
Hey, David, thanks so much for doing this. It was nice to be a lead online in the New York Post. How did that happen?
Yeah, amazingly, with all the Sandler stuff going on now, you know, the whole IHOP incident and him playing basketball, they asked me about the story and I told them about, you know, my movie and this incident of passing up the drink with Adam back in 1998 when I worked on Big Daddy.
Let's talk about your movie before we talk about how you're running with Adam Sandler, because it's kind of all connected. The movie's not out yet. I did see the trailer. It looks good. This is incredible publicity for that movie.
The movie's called Finding Sandler. The goal is to get Adam Sandler to do it.
Get Adam Sandler to do what?
To have a drink with me, a drink that I actually passed up back in 1998.
Right. You were delivering something to him from the movie set, right? You were delivering something to him, and tell us what happened then.
Yeah. So the quick story is I worked for the costume designer. I was a costume PA. The night of the premiere for The Waterboy, which happened to be in Manhattan, Sandler wanted to wear clothing from the set of the movie. And so my boss said, hey, David, deliver these clothes, drop them off at Adam's apartment, give them to the doorman, drive Autumn home. She was another costume PA in my department. Take the car back to the office and you can go home for the night. So I go to Sandler's building. I double park the car. This is 1998. I'm 22 years old. I don't have a cell phone. I'm a poor kid. I go into Sandler's apartment building with the clothes. I tell the girl, Autumn, I'll be right back. I give the doorman the clothes and he goes, hey, just bring them up to Adam. So I go, okay. I figured it'd just be a quick drop off and leave. I go up to Sandler's apartment. I knock on the door. From behind the door, I hear, who is it? What do you want? He started yelling at me like he yells at people in his movies. And I'm like, it's Dave. I'm just a PA here to deliver your clothes for the premiere. And he opens the door. He's got a huge smile on his face. And he's like, hey, man, you want to come in and have a drink? And right at that moment, I kind of froze for a second. And it was like an angel and devil popping up on my shoulder. The devil starting with, do it, man. He's one of your heroes. Just do it. You know, and then the angel coming in and saying, you can't. You got Autumn in the car. You're double parked and Ellen will fire you. Ellen was my boss. And I basically said, hey, look, I can't. And I said, no. And I ended up leaving and got home that night, told my parents, and my mom was like, what are you, an idiot? You should have left the girl in the car. Should have called a cab or something, you know. But the point was, I didn't have a cell phone. I had no way of reaching her, and I was up in the apartment. The car was double parked, so I didn't want to.
You believe that was a life-changing opportunity that you passed by.
I mean, look, I've wanted to be a filmmaker for a good majority of my life, right? So it's like for any tech guy that would have wanted to hang out with Steve Jobs and have the opportunity to talk about their dreams and learn from Steve Jobs, like how he got his start. And, to be able to have that conversation for me would have just been a major impact on my life, because at that point in my career, in my life, Adam Sandler was one of my heroes. I mean, I really looked up to him in so many different ways, besides the fact that he was, an amazing comedian. I loved his early movies, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, those. I grew up with those movies, and the Hanukkah song, being a Jewish kid without any Hanukkah songs your whole life, he came up with that thing and it made you feel cool to be Jewish. And on top of that, that song actually had real meaning to me, because my grandfather, who had a stroke when I was in my 20s, he wasn't able to speak or do many things. But when I played that song for him, he always reacted. He smiled, he'd laugh. It was great to see that. So Adam Sandler was a big part of my childhood and in my life. And then one night I actually had this dream. And in my dream, I went to California looking for him. And when I woke up, I decided to make a movie about it, and it was going to be called Finding Sandler, and the movie would be about my quest to find Adam and to try and have the drink that I passed up with him back in 1998. And in my dream, I actually found him.
Did you ever get to have a conversation with Adam Sandler, or do we have to wait for the movie?
No, I could tell you. I mean, yes, we did have a conversation. Essentially what happened was you saw outside, I was a guy I knew who is like an autograph hunter. I call him a super fan. Used to get celebrity autographs all the time. So he called me and said, "Hey, Dave, show up at the corner of whatever at so-and-so time. Sandler will be pulling in. You'll have like a minute to pitch whatever you want to him." And that's what you saw, where I said, "Hey," I told him who I was and what I was doing. And he was like, "You're the guy making the movie." He had heard about it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked. The whole thing was a blur while I was going through it. And he basically took me backstage to have a conversation about the film. And at that point, he the way we left it was, he told me to send him the movie, that he would take a look at it. We would talk about it and everything would be cool. And since that moment, he never watched the movie.
Yeah, well, look, in these days when things are streaming and they're always looking for content, I wouldn't be surprised if we are all watching this on Hulu or Amazon or Netflix very soon after you get this through the film festivals. And I really appreciate your time. It was a great idea. You're a very creative guy, and I wish you the best of luck.
Jersey filmmaker David Seth Cohen. Still to come, we're going to take you on a musical journey to historic Lambertville. That's next.
Hot and dangerous. If you're one of us, then roll with us. I think that's my favorite Kesha song from back when I was in high school. Yeah, it is hot out there. We got temperatures climbing into lower 90s. The humidity is on the rise. Please make sure you are hydrated and you're using your sunscreen as well. We're going to continue the hot weather through your Sunday. We're still looking for rain. We're just not finding any. We have a hefty deficit built up of 1.5 inches to 2 inches of rain below where we should be. We don't have any areas of organized low pressure systems coming our way, so we just gotta, roll with the flow, roll with the punches here. Got a chance of above average temperatures well into late month. Most of it's gonna be organized down to our south. Futurecast satellite and radar is gonna show you more of the same with high pressure in control, just small shower chances going forward. Your 7-day outlook, it's hot and toasty again. By Wednesday in the middle 90s, tapering off into the 80s and even the 70s after that. I'm meteorologist Norrie Sternick for Jersey Matters.
Welcome back. A couple of weeks ago on Jersey Matters, you may remember we started a new feature called Jersey Jaunts, where we highlight beautiful places around New Jersey that are worth a day trip. Well, this week, Phil Andrews has put together a beautiful musical tribute to historic Lambertville, along with Lambertville native and musician J.B. Klein.
It was a summer night, no Lambertville. It was a summer night, it was so warm and still. Lovers walked together, holding hands, and old people talked about the weather.
So your grandfather or father was a mayor?
Yes, my grandfather was the mayor of Lambertville.
No Lambertville. I hear music coming from a radio up on a windowsill. Two ladies were sick and split a cold beer. Each one telling the other one the things she needs to hear. Each old building.
Drive around and just look at the old architecture. Because Lambertville's a town that, like a lot of towns in New Jersey, has a lot of old buildings in it. A lot of old, beautiful buildings.
some went away. Oh, some are here to stay.
The towpath is a great thing to do, walk down the towpath.
Our lot alike that way. And from the bridge, the sunset is so vast. And I see a flag over in the distance, waving half-mast.
And there are antique stores. The antique world, it's not dying out. People still like antiques, but it's changing a lot. And antique stores are changing. They have to sell a lot of their stuff online. And they can't afford to pay the rent a lot of times if they don't have a significant online business.
Most everything is warm and still on that summer night in old Lambertville.
The true value of Lambertville isn't our past and maintaining the good architecture, the good vibe. One thing you'll find in Lambertville is a good vibe. Lambertville hasn't been on a downturn maybe in 60 years, 75 years. And maybe it wasn't even then, I don't even know. But all I know is it's been on an upswing as long as I can remember, and it still is.
On that summer night in old Lambertville.
Thanks to Phil Andrews for shooting the video, editing and producing, and to J.B. Klein for that loving musical tribute to his hometown of Lambertville. My commentary is next. Tim Tebow and Colin Kaepernick are both former NFL quarterbacks. When they played, both of them caused controversy for taking a knee during the NFL game. Tim Tebow in prayer, Colin Kaepernick in protest. And in this strange national divide where everything is political, the country took sides on these two men. And now those controversies have collided years after either of them have played an NFL game. Why? Because at 33 years old, Tim Tebow has just been signed to an NFL contract and being given the opportunity to make an NFL roster. He would play under his former college coach, Urban Meyer, who is now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and recently had his assistant coaches work Tebow out as a tight end.
They come in and they said, wow, you know, this guy's ball skills, he's a great athlete. He looks like he's 18 years old, not 20, whatever he is, 33. And I said, guys, you don't understand now. This guy is, you know, he's the most competitive maniac you're ever going to talk to. And let's give it a shot.
Even the possibility of Tim Tebow making an NFL roster, even though it's not a sure thing, has Colin Kaepernick supporters irate. Those supporters believe that Kaepernick was blacklisted from ever playing in the NFL because he took a knee during the national anthem in protest of police brutality against African Americans in this country. Kaepernick sued the NFL and they settled out of court, but his fans were still very upset that he never got to play again for an NFL team, as witnessed by the vitriol on social media when word got out that Tim Tebow was given the opportunity to make the Jacksonville Jaguars. Devin Bush, a linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, tweeted out, "Tebow got a job before Kaepernick? Wait until we play Jacksonville." And actor Stephen Pasquale tweeted out, "Tebow finding a job and Kaepernick can't? White privilege, NFL style." For thousands of celebrities, players, fans on social media, this was a black and white issue. And I agree, the difference between the two is black and white, but it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with desire. Tim Tebow signed a contract that pays him the league minimum salary to try out to play backup tight end, not quarterback. And he's giving up a lucrative ESPN analyst job just for a chance to play one more time. Colin Kaepernick, on the other hand, has had several chances to be on an NFL roster and either turned down the offer or bungled the opportunity. In 2016, Kaepernick turned down an offer to play quarterback for the Denver Broncos because he wouldn't accept anything under $11.9 million a year. That was confirmed by then Broncos general manager and Hall of Fame quarterback John Elway.
Colin had his chance to be here. We offered him a contract. He didn't take it.
And Denver wasn't his only opportunity. In 2017, the Baltimore Ravens were very close to signing Kaepernick. The owner, Steve Buscemi, was excited about it. That was until Kaepernick's girlfriend compared him to a slave owner in a tweet. The Ravens finally decided they didn't want the headache. In 2018, the Seattle Seahawks were interested in signing Kaepernick, but only if he agreed not to kneel during the national anthem. Kaepernick refused, and Seattle moved on. In 2019, the NFL set up a showcase for Kaepernick at an Atlanta Falcons training facility, but a half hour before it was supposed to start, Kaepernick changed the location to a high school 59 miles away. 25 teams were there to watch Kaepernick work out and throw at the Atlanta Falcons facility. Only 8 teams made the last-minute trip to Kaepernick's rescheduled location. Now, he threw well, but it seems like the teams were turned off by the drama. Kaepernick turned a legitimate second chance into a publicity stunt, and he turned off all 32 NFL teams. During those same years that Kaepernick was toying with all those NFL teams, Tim Tebow was riding on a bus to try to make a minor league baseball team to play one more game, even if it was baseball. And this is the way he defined success.
For me, success is going to be defined by giving it everything I have and being the best I can be.
It sure seems like Tim Tebow is willing to sacrifice everything just to play another day. And Colin Kaepernick doesn't seem like he wants to play at all for the opportunity to be a martyr for another day. I have a suggestion for Jacksonville coach Urban Meyer. Offer the exact same contract to Kaepernick that you offered to Tim Tebow. The league minimum, just for the slim chance of making the team as a tight end, not a quarterback. I guarantee you, only one of the two men will show up at training camp. I'm Larry Menti. We'll talk again soon.